Dr. McLeod's devotional is on not understanding.
When I was in Calcutta, India, at a mission run by Mother Teresa, one of the workers told me a story about Mother Teresa. Someone asked Mother Teresa, when you die and get to heaven, what is the first thing you are going to say to Jesus? And she said, the first thing I'm going to say is, you've got a lot of explaining to do. Now this meant that there was plenty, just as you and I know of plenty, that we cannot understand about God. You will notice, though, that the fact she did not understand a lot of things, that a lot of things needed to be explained or she wanted to have explained, did not mean she did not believe in God. It just meant she did not understand Him. We have to understand we are not going to find out what God is like by merely understanding Him. In the first place, God is not going to be understood. He is a sovereign God. That means He is a God we cannot fully understand. And because we cannot fully understand Him, we cannot manipulate Him as we might like to do. If God could be understood perfectly, then He would be manipulated by people for their own selfish interests. And God must remain sovereign. He must remain non-manipulatable. We are never going to have scientific experiments that can prove the existence of God, because if we understood the way God works, then we would try to become God and merely use Him as another machine whose buttons we push to get our own way. On the other way of looking at it, as children, do they always understand their parents? No. But through loving them and serving them, they grow, and they grow up well. But they do not necessarily understand their parents. Nor, for that matter, do we completely understand any other human being. A man who says he understands women doesn't really know much about women. Because, as anyone could tell you, there are always things the spouses do not understand about each other. But that does not mean they cannot like or love each other. You do not have to understand in order to believe that someone is real. Now, the best way to learn about God is through serving. You get a project together with God, and you start that project, and as you serve God and ask for His help, you begin to peep through the curtain of materialism and flesh. And sometimes you begin to see God peeping through the curtain. Dr. Jacobs, the founder of Thornwell Orphanage, said of the bad times during the 19th century where there was such poverty, that often he was worried about feeding the orphans that had been brought to him under his care. And he would pray. And he said he didn't know how many times he gave up. But always, he said, finally, down the road, there would come a wagon of someone he often did not know, bearing food for the orphans. Hams, meals, chickens, all sorts of things came in, according to people's ability. But the point is, he learned the Spirit of God was working. And he learned through the manifestations and peeps behind the curtain to God working, how God did work. Now, we can't always see God working, and God has never said that we would. But if we pray, if we serve, and we try to learn from what we are doing, when you have a project and you find God helping, His Spirit occasionally appearing so that you may see it, then you begin to realize how God works. Now, you know, people will say very often instead that because of something bad that has happened, there is no God. Because there is a storm does not mean that nature is not working. It is an ill wind that blows nobody good. And on the storm comes the rain, and afterward the sun. And even evil carries with it good. Let us not worry, because God isn't scientifically understandable. You're not going to put God in a situation where He can be understood and manipulated. And we are never going to be able to say here and there. How do we see behind the curtain of that illusion we call the world and that illusion we call flesh? In John 3:8, Jesus says, "The wind blows where it listed, where it will." We do not always understand the Spirit, but it moves where it will. And sometimes we are able to see it moving. Often we are not so blessed. But it is through working alongside God we get to know Him, to understand Him. So do not say there, "I do not understand God, so there is no God." That is certainly not the right thing to do. When the Apostle Paul was stricken by God on the road to Damascus, he did not say, "Because I do not understand what is going on, there is no God." When St. Francis was by the road, he did not say, "There is no God because I do not understand Him." When Mother Teresa was running her mission, she did not say, "Because I cannot understand anything, there is no God."